Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Technology experts say Nigeria spends over $400 million annually on foreign software license renewal without recourse to indigenous software that could perform the same task. What does that sound like?
English.
Jargon?
No, English.
Okay. It just means that plenty of software that you use can be developed locally, but you are paying foreigners for the same software. Experts have decried the huge loss Nigeria incurs annually on foreign software. To avoid such a huge amount, which they describe as waste to the economy, the stakeholders unanimously called for the adoption of indigenous software across financial institutions and other sectors of the economy. Right. So, we have in the studio to help us analyze all of this, Mr. Yele Okereme, who is the President, Institute of Software Practitioners of Nigeria. Good morning. And he's come along with the Deputy President, Mr. Chineye Mba Uzuku. Good morning.
Good morning.
And we have joining us from our Abuja studio, the Project Director, Silicon Base, Mr. Adebi Oke. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for joining us. $400 million, sir. That is a lot of money. So what are the things you're putting forward to us to make us desist from spending that kind of money? Or should I say, throwing away that kind of money, which can remain here and help build our economy that we're complaining about all the time?
Well, I think it's nothing new. This kind of conversations we're having, it's just part of our Nigerian lifestyle. So
everything imported is good, right?
So to speak. I mean, you see, it's even more frustrating sometimes. So if you're talking about $400 million, that's a very little amount of money, actually.
It is.
When you compare that to how much Nigeria spends on other areas, in oil and gas, we did huge Bonga project, created several thousands of jobs in Newcastle. How many jobs did we create in Nigeria? But that speaks to the kind of system and processes that we've been running. And so, so when you speak to both sides of the table, you would hear very interesting stories. I speak a lot of times from the vendor side, which are the software producers, so to speak. But again, when you go speak, because the $400 million we've spoken about, I think survey probably is just in the financial institutions. But when you go speak to the banks, they also have their stories to tell you. And the stories they will tell you are also very interesting. Then they will tell you things like, oh no, we attempted to do some software projects with some Nigerian companies, and they didn't quite do well. Oh, so why should we continue to trust them? Oh, we're looking for mature software that's been used. And you begin to even hear even funny terms like world class that nobody can actually point to and define. So you hear some of those issues. And, in a way, they are right. But there's a danger of hearing a single story. Because when you also extrapolate even their own single story to how many foreign softwares have been implemented in this soil that have failed, then you see that the argument that they are bringing up begins to crumble. So people tell you things like, oh, I'm private sector, I want the best for myself, and I can afford it, therefore, I want to buy something that I know is tested. But we do not understand that, yes, the money might be yours, but the resources belongs to this country. And there's a need for this country to build its own. Because otherwise, in 10 years' time, you will still be looking for 10-year-old applications from outside of the country. And, it's pathetic sometimes when you see a country like Nigeria, where we have about 180 million, depending on which statistics you are following, buying software from countries like Georgia, countries like Jordan, whose population is about
Ouch.
8 million. And these issues are very straightforward. We again ask ourselves the questions, very simple questions. What are the fundamental requirements for building and delivering software that are good? And you absolutely realize that the most critical things is brain power. So the question is, the fact that we are Nigerians, does it make us inferior in brain power to anybody?
But you heard what you put. There was something you said about what those players in the private sector usually say.
Yes.
It's my money, and I want to buy material that is tested and proven. That's right. So maybe their fear is that the materials here have not been tested, or maybe tested but not proven to be enduring. Don't you think it's worthwhile thinking that?
So that's correct. And so then we begin to look at the roles of chaperones, if I use that word. Because otherwise the whole world could be roaming in the wild and everybody will do what they please. But the essence of chaperones, and in this case government, for example, will be to look at the generality, what's good for all, and determine a program to lead all of us to a destination that is better for us. So yes, individually, I mean, I heard the Minister of Agric on your channel 2 days ago saying that people were buying pizzas from London and they made that a big deal. And somebody will say, and so what? I can afford it. But you know that the reason why some of these conversations happen is because we say, okay, can we internalize some of the wealth? And that's what every smart nation does.
Internalizing the wealth.
They want to internalize it.
Okay, Mr. Mba, the Nigerian Computer Society, that's your group of people. Almost every university in this country has computer science department. The curriculum, or what they learn there, sometimes you begin to wonder, are they really learning about the computer? Are they learning about the software and all of that? So sometimes some will say it is what is coming in, as a garbage in, garbage out, right? So maybe what's coming in is not worth it. That's why the quality of the produce is not being, the demand for the quality of produce, local produce, is not that high. What would you say about that?
I would rebut that almost entirely. There are problems, but you don't necessarily move forward by looking backwards. There's some things that are not right, and you can fix those things. But the more important thing is where you're going to. And the way to think about it is metaphorically, we just say, okay, if you set out to build a house, you have to understand who you're building this house for. Who's going to live in it? What's that person going to do in that house? And then you construct the house in a manner that enables them to have meaningful lives within that structure, right? So the way to approach this and be able to think about this is to say, okay, what nation are we building? What's the character of the nation? What do we envision it to be? And what kind of meaningful lives are people going to be able to live within that nation? And then you start to construct the nation accordingly. And I want to take that example down to the universities, which is curriculum is important, but it's not the main issue. The fundamental issue around this local software, local content, is that if you want to build a nation that endures, in which Nigerians would live full and meaningful lives within this country, then you must make it worthwhile and meaningful for them to live in that house, in that country, not to go abroad and live outside of the country. And in the digital economy that is the global economy of today, you can't really separate yourself from things like computing, local software, local content, and all that sort of stuff. So if we don't create capacity locally to actually build and live in that environment, then you're actually just literally, it doesn't matter what you teach in universities. You can teach, and then you're teaching to export your talent, right? And your talent goes to other countries and builds those other countries, not yours, because you're only internalizing the product. So it's not just producing the product, it's who are you producing it for? What's the intention? Why are you building this house? What is this nation heading to? Where exactly is it that you want it to be? So we want to build a digital economy in Nigeria for Nigerians and for the benefit of Nigerians. And if you're Scottish, why shouldn't you want to be a Nigerian in the same way that Nigerians want to be Canadian or want to be Scottish or want to be American? But it's about the structure. So just to nail that down to the issue around the schools and what the schools are producing. There's a larger problem with education in Nigeria, which we're pretty clear about. But let's dimension that problem. It's a country of 180, maybe 190 million people, correct? And in that 180 and 90 million, the total enrollment of tertiary education is about 1.6 million. So do the numbers. 1% of your population are in tertiary education.
Annually.
1%. The total enrollment, monotechnics, polytechnics, 1%. Globally, the minimum standard for developments to occur is 8%.
Ouch.
You're at
We're
1%.
far off the mark.
And you've been at this 1% for 30 years, if not more. So if you want to expand the capacity, I mean, a province in China, Haodong, produces 450,000 graduates in business studies alone.
So Chiene, what you're saying is that we're actually kidding ourselves, thinking that more children are in school now than 10 years ago.
I think Nigerians are not looking at the numbers, and they need to study those numbers aggressively, because when you look at the numbers, the education system is what produces the manpower, and it's that manpower that translates into that creates intellectual property, and the intellectual property then become assets that you can then sell and monetize, right? So the challenge we would have, and this is really going back to the issue of local content, local software, is this: if you're buying and importing all of that, where lies the incentive in creating the capacity to create the software, to produce the software? If you're already importing, and you're importing and occupying the potential spaces within the market, what then are you producing from the universities? What's the incentive for the universities or any of the whole entire education system to generate that manpower? To do what? To work abroad, clearly, because they're not creating anything. Why would you train somebody as a software developer for the purpose of maintaining software that has been imported? Or is it to create new software? So if the spaces are blocked, if all the rooms are occupied for this house that you're building, then it means that the people who ought to be the tenants for whom you actually built it for are going to be standing outside the building, right?
Looking for another house.
And this is what we're seeing. So this is a metaphorical way of explaining what you're finding, which is that the more you develop local talent in this space, they simply move out of the country. And it's going to continue in that cycle unless something is done to disrupt that.
Demand.
And the correct thing, exactly. Demand. So the way to disrupt that is to create local demand.
Okay.
And when you create local demand, you stimulate production.
I was going to ask you about the fact that we do know that we have a company here that builds computers, but they build computers with software that is brought in. Maybe they do that because of the partnerships they have. Is it possible that, like the China you mentioned, where they have their own softwares that work within the country? In fact, if you're bringing a software from outside, you need to get some national permission for it to even work in their country and even in some regions. Is it possible to build that kind of ecosystem in this country? Mr. Oke, can you weigh in on that? To create that local demand so that even companies that are building the systems here can begin to make use of the software. Because many Nigerians, some of them not as educated as you would think, are actually doing some of these things in their bedrooms with their small computers.
Thank you very much. Just like my industry colleagues have actually said there in your studio in Lagos, I mean, the truth there is that it is very clear the path we are toiling as a country. Now, I will start by saying that Nigeria is a country where we actually export what we don't have and we import what we have. And that is the clear case of this software issue in Nigeria. Now, if you look at the indices and the of world population, you will find out that Nigeria actually ranks as part of the top 10 countries that is most populated in the world. Now, if you now take quite a number of those countries that are having the highest population in the world, you now take them into the economy indices as well. You will also find out that quite a number of those countries that have the high population in the world actually are doing well in terms of their economies as well. And that is because they've taken advantage of their populace. They are taking advantage of their youth population, and which Nigeria is not doing. Now, you talked about us actually putting together building systems here in terms of hardware and all of that, but we're not putting content into them. The same thing for software, for the internet as well. We use the internet so much. You see everyone is on Facebook, everyone is on Instagram. I mean, so many people are on so much of this social media, but the truth there is that how much of knowledge and how much of the economic benefit are we deriving from all of this?
Mr. Oke, just hold your thoughts. Permit me to interrupt you there. We'll just take a moment. When we'll come back, we'll continue on that point. How much of economic benefits are we drawing from our existence in the social media space and all of that? We'll be back shortly. Please don't go away.